I feel like it's Groundhog's Day. I know it isn't, but I feel like I have not been outside in months. And to be honest, I really haven't been. I've been so busy working inside the cabin, working on that bathroom for months, and now the laundry room for about the past few weeks. I haven't hardly been outside at all. And as you can see, there's like no snow on the ground. It has not snowed hardly at all this winter. I think the last storm that I got was in October, probably towards the end of October, maybe beginning of November. But underneath my feet here, there's probably about an inch of snow. There's probably more than that. There's probably maybe 4 inches of snow total on the ground. But you can see I don't have the big piles that I normally have. I had to have the driveway cleared, I think, only twice this past winter. It's been such a mild winter here, and I am ready for spring to get here. So not only am I out here because Kenai is out at the moment, but also just wanted to take a quick look around the property because I have some plans to get some things done this summer. I know I talk a lot about plans, things I'd like to get done. I have a lot of things that need to get done, but I also have some. Look at that. There's the sun setting. Well, it's not quite setting. It'll be going down soon, but isn't that a beautiful view? But I have some things that have to get done this year. So one of the things actually is on the cabin there. You can see one of the mountains right there. But see that little triangle right there? That little triangle needs to be sealed. It is just raw plywood. So I need to get a measurement because there's one on the back of the cabin as well on that and all the fascia boards, so I can make sure that I have enough stain and sealer on hand to get those sealed. And then I'm also going to be putting up soffits this year. The reason I didn't have soffits done when I had my roof done was because my roofer and I had been in talks about having rollaway gutters that would tuck up and underneath into the eaves of the cabin. But he couldn't figure out exactly how to make it work. And then it just never happened. So that's why I don't have soffits. But soffits have to get up. The eaves need, or not the eaves, but the fascia board needs to be covered. Eventually it'll get some metal fascia on it. And then those new triangular additions to the roof need to be sealed. If I get the opportunity, I'd like to sand down the cabin. I've been looking at potentially doing a soda blast on the cabin because this cabin was at one time painted. And you can see where the paint's peeling away right there. And then you can see where I had some logs over there. I can't point. The logs replaced from where the old roof had leaked into them over the course of years. So I need to tend to that. I need to get all of that taken care of before next winter comes. And I know that I've been doing a lot of construction. But I'm about burnt out on construction, believe it or not. I'm so ready for spring to be here. I want to go fishing and I want to go out and explore. And I have my friends coming up this summer. My one friend from Colorado, she'll be coming up. And we have been in talks about going and doing some really cool things this year. You know, we typically do a lot of traveling while she's here. But this year we're going to do some things that I've been looking forward to. So I'm not going to say what they are yet because it may not happen. But fingers crossed that all goes well. And if our plans do come to fruition, it'll be a dream come true for me. So there's that. So making plans for summer. I will also be helping out my friends again this summer with their cabins, getting them ready for the summer as well. And things like that. So I have a busy summer coming up. Because not only is it the exterior of the cabin that needs to get done, but I also have that big pile of stuff behind the cabin that I need to get rid of. I was hoping to do a big burn this past fall, And that just didn't happen due to the winds, because this time, or fall and spring, are really our windy seasons here in this area of Alaska. And right there you can see that big burn pile. Well, as I predicted, the burn bans have been pushed forward this year. And as of March 17th, there is no open burning allowed. You will need a permit, and chances of getting one are probably pretty slim. So I'll have to have that hauled away so that I can begin work on the back of the property, because I'm going to be replacing that outhouse, and I'd like to build a proper greenhouse back there and my outdoor kitchen, though those things may not happen this year. But one other thing that will be happening this year is I will be getting different firewood. So I have not had firewood delivered for the last 2 years. And between what's in the woodshed right there, this pile here, and then that pile over there at the bunkhouse, I think I have probably about 5 cords of wood left. And that's from getting 12 cords of wood delivered, I think 2 years ago. But next year, I will be bucking up my own firewood. So, ooh, it is slick underneath my feet, and I do not want to fall. There's Kenai. But next year, I will be, like I said, bucking up my own firewood. I'll be getting a truckload of birch logs here this summer, and then I'll be splitting all that myself. So I have my work cut out for me coming up. So I'm looking at getting some better axes for splitting wood. So last year I only burnt a couple cords. This year I've only burnt a couple cords. Been really conservative on my wood burning. This year it was easy because of how warm it's been. It's still not really warm by traditional standards. Right now, I think it's about 20 degrees outside. No, it's about 40 degrees outside. But the highs here have really been around the high 20s for the most part for a while now. So still not warm, but before you know it, it will be spring. And then this guy will have some fresh ground to lay on and no more snow to roll around in. Yeah, no more snow. What are you going to do when there's no more snow? Huh? So, but speaking of the construction I mentioned earlier, I did get the opportunity to play around on my new jointer's bench so I could work on some stuff inside the cabin. While I wait for the parts to arrive so I can make a vise for this jointer's bench, I couldn't wait to get my window framed up in the new laundry room. So I am cutting out the windowsill by hand without a vise. And despite not having a vise, I think I did a pretty good job. Maybe. Now, well, this is why I'm doing a trial run before actually staining this, because it appears I need to shave off just a bit. And as I'm looking at my cut lines, it looks like I went a little bit off track here, and this edge is actually crooked. So this is not fitting in the window. So I'm gonna go trim this up and then apply some stain before I install the new windowsill. This is when I could use an extra hand. And now to see if my math was right on this. Oh, thank goodness. You might recall a few weeks ago that I framed up this wall because the outer wall of the cabin had a bit of a lean to it. So in order to add some stability and true everything up, I framed it up. But what that means is that my window framing now, because of that lean, is wider at the top than it is at the bottom. It's actually 8 inches going all the way up to 9 inches the further you get up. And because I don't have a table saw and I'm making all my cuts with my circular saw, And while I could have free-handed this by, just drawing a line from 9 inches to 8 inches wide on my board, I didn't feel confident in doing so. So I just used my guide bar, and now I have a perfectly straight board on both sides. The problem with that is that as I put this in here and have it lined up to the front of the window, I now have a gap here at the back. And I'm going to alleviate that gap or hide it by using the piece of trim that I actually cut off and just tacking that up in front of it. That'll hide the gap in the back. I'll add trim all the way around the window, and that will finish it out nicely. But so far, I'm loving this mahogany. I think it's absolutely beautiful. So nice. The window looks incomplete at this moment, so I'm coming back in with a couple strips of 1/2 inch by 2 inch wood along the sides that I've also stained with the mahogany gel stain. I'm just going to lightly tack those in a couple of places. I'll come back later and fill in the nail holes and cover those up. But once the window is done, I have one more thing to do, which is add an additional piece of wood above the window. I'm thinking a 6-inch strip covered on top with another piece of trim to give the window the definition that it really needs. I'm kind of reluctant to do the next project in here, but it has to get done. And that's the floors. Originally, I thought that I was going to come in and paint these a historic pale yellow color with a motif stenciled on them in white. But two things have stopped me from doing that. The first thing is that a lot of the things that are going in this room have red in them. There's that red cabinet that sits in here. My washer or wash tubs are red, and I don't want this room to look like ketchup and mustard. I don't want it to look like a fast food chain, in other words. So the other thing is that the floor underneath me is just underlayment. So rough plywood with a lot of seams and gaps in them. I could come in and seal those with some caulking before painting, but I also don't think it's worth the time and the effort to put in all that work into this floor, considering that the goal is to make it water resilient. I don't think I'd be able to make it waterproof by painting it, even if I sealed it. However, ultimately, I think what I'm gonna do is wind up coming back in here with some linoleum, which will mean I'll have to take this pantry out because it'll be a pain to run that linoleum underneath the pantry. So that's a project for another day. In the meantime, though, I do need to get this floor tended to because I have a friend of mine who lives in the area who's going to come over and help me move all my stuff back in here, and I have to kind of work around his schedule. So in the meantime, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stain the floors. I'm using this black onyx stain for two reasons. One is I had it on hand, and the other thing is that because this is just like I said, rough plywood, and I've been doing a lot in here, and I really haven't cared too much about this floor over the past couple of years. It's got a lot of stains on it. This should help cover up all those stains. Now, I know that I said that I was not happy with having a dark floor in the bathroom, and this will show a lot of dust and dirt on it. But I'm also planning on just putting a rug in here, a runner to run in between the wash tubs and the pantry, which will help to provide some distraction away from any dust and dirt that might be otherwise noticeable. But while I do this, I'm also going to sign off for now and say that I will be back next week. I might have more projects in here, but I have a lot going on, whether I'm working in here or taking care of some other things. So be sure to join me, and I'll see you again then.